一刷根39大林邦呀，腾满腾腾啊巴扎呀扎呀，是兰达跟大树啊两样啊扎伊。
Sort of like a spin-out from a women's environmental group at the beginning, and how we evolved along the way. So Hui gave me the topic, so she picked the topic, not me. So since you are all in Taiwan here, I would like to let you know that, do you know what tree of these, your name tag? Camphor. Taiwan has been exporting camphor oil, essential oils, for centuries. So there's one big tree outside, and yesterday there's a Japanese asked me whether the other tree with the tiny leaf, whether it's the neem tree. Yes, it's a Taiwan neem tree. Well, in Taiwanese name, we call it calling out, or the kulian, but it wasn't as potent as the Indian neem tree if we talked about organic use as an antibacterial. Okay, so let's start it. I will have a brief sort of like this is more like a women's volunteer work. We'll talk about a lot of what we do from the heart and by action. So a lot of time is through volunteer work rather than trying to gain it as a job. We're talking about the work. So currently I'm serve on the board of director in the Green Advocates Energy Co-op. And where should I? Oh, okay, thank you. So after like several days in Taiwan, you know that we are not in the Southeastern Asia, we're in East Asia. And we had a area, it's about 1/10 of the land of Japan. And our population is about 24 million. Although we are a fast or rapidly aging society, very similar to Korea. So we have a big group of Korean group here today. So I would like to just elaborate. We have been colonized twice. One is in the 17th century by Dutch for a brief 38 years. So this year marked the Dutch have their colonized a small, what do you call the castle? It's called a Zealandia. And this marks the 400 year. So there's a lot of sort of like activities going about that. And also the buffalo in Taiwan was sent by the Dutch East India Company from Batavia, where it's currently the Indonesian's capital, what we call, what is it? In Jakarta. That was the previous name for okay, so we do have some, and here, this is used to be a sugarcane plant, and it was during the Japanese era. Probably you can Google about the history, might be in the 1920s or the 1930s. So we have a some of an industry or the infrastructure that was late until now is from the Japanese era. Okay, and oops. I would say we talked about this year, we had many typhoons. And also in the April, we have a big earthquake, which is in the magnitude of 7.2 in Hualien. So the Taitung area in Hualien was hit constantly by the afterquake. And but we didn't suffer a major blackout because the rapid increase of renewable energy, especially solar PV, and the grid storage release, which make us sort of like escape the major blackout from the trip from the power plant. That was the time that we started to see the resilience because the whole Taiwan is a independent grid area. 就是台湾是一个独立电网。 我们没有 unlike the European or like a big continent where you can have a lot of power supply or by other area. And typhoon here this year we were hit by I don't know how many. Well, I lost track of all the typhoon, but from July on, Gemi came and Kaohsiung was hit hardest. We have two national call it typhoon day off, 2 days. But Kaohsiung, I think some of the area have like 3 or 4 days because they have a lot of clean out. And in the October, we have a Kraton. We have another 2 days, I wouldn't say national holiday, but it was a sort of like a crisis day. But the late October into November, we have another Conway. You have all the name, you know, Kraton is a tropical fruit. Please check it out. We have several typhoons are named after the tropical fruit. Okay, so we talked about the agricultural loss from these typhoon. Our Hualien area, the rice growing group, they suffer probably on the second crop of rice because Taiwan, we have 2 rice crop per year. The second crop usually harvest in the beginning of November. It was related by another typhoon. And so it will suffer like a 30% of loss, 30 to 40%. Okay, I just tell you. But back into 1987, that's where I joined the women's group as a volunteer in the early 1993. But 1987 marked the beginning of Taiwan's for a democratic moving pathway or democratic transition. 1987 is very important and similar to Korea. We all marked 1987 because we ended the martial law for 38 years. And so most of the people's association will start to thaw, or you can apply and the government will not watch out you, was probably at the beginning of after 1990s. So democratic transition in Taiwan is very important for most of the civil activity and volunteer activity as well. So we started as Homemakers United, used to call Homemakers Union, and some people would mislead, said we are a group working for workers union. There's a Philippine group visiting us, thought we are working for the migrant workers' rights. No, we are not. So we changed it into Homemakers United because just for Housewife Alliance for the Environment. And this marked the first women's environmental group in Taiwan. And we were anti-nuclear power plant from day one. And so this was probably 30 years ago, one of the march or rally. And we continue to that until this day. And there are so many activities that we participate, especially advocating for recycling program in Taiwan. And until now, Taiwan might have a good reputation on recycling, but I think we can do more rather than current situation. But we had a project in one of the committees called the Green Consumerism Movement, and that marks we borrowed the idea from the Japan's consumers co-op called the Sekatsu Club, Secure. From Sekatsu Club Secure, we have just borrowed the idea how to consolidate the buying power so we can work with farmer or farming and food group directly rather than through the major food makers. And the kitchen waste composting program has been our pioneer for 3 years. And before the Taipei city and municipal government taken on as their standard activities. And non-GMO, this is our stance for we don't want to go with the big agri-business. They are trying to sell in the idea of this is big and cheap, and so there's many of our activities like that. Okay, so after 8 years of our juggling, what kinds of activity can we do about this? We took on to legalize as a consumers co-op in 2001. So after 23 years, currently we had a membership of more than 88,000. But compared to the Koreans Hansalim Consumers Co-op Federation may have a membership of 800,000. Am I right? Maybe Koreans friends will confirm on that. There are many activity in Japan and Korea. So today I'm using this because we always talk about global and local. And so local is a word that we used for top down or grassroots up, and how we can sort of trying to do something is what we call the social economy or the solidarity economy. Is we can come together and make the world a little bit different from currently. So creating an alternative, that was the words that we use and try to make changes. So cooperative is the way of doing business by real democratic way. So that we map it up with the Taiwan's democracy pathway, because all the prior, I wouldn't say all, but a lot of the cooperative are just following the government subsidy to do the agricultural transportation or receiving fertilizer, rather than just having our own decision-making and sovereignty. But collectively owned and democratic control is something that we learn along the way to run a business really in the democratic way, and by consolidate our shared value and common needs and aspiration. And so this is what we try to see: one person, one vote. As a cooperative is a way we try to see what kinds of all the possibility of working together with farmer and we as ourselves as consumer in urban area, because 80% of Taiwan's population live in the cities. We have very limited farmland and farming population. And this is what the International Cooperative Alliance, ICA, had put out as the 7 principles. And this is how we try to aspire and see if we can all follow this to have our way of saying, rather than we are not a .com. So stick on to this basic principle is very crucial for running a good co-op. And I would now to elaborate on the 3rd year of our career. When in 1995, we started working with the farmers group in near Taipei, what now is called the New Taipei City. Used to have rice paddy, but it's no longer being used because rice paddy is thinking we don't have that labor, and we believe in automation so quickly. Rice paddy is not very easy to farm with when you have very small paddies and you have to walk up and down. And now people are so used to machinery. So those areas we try to work with old farmers, say, can you grow organic vegetable for us? Seems we are not so far from your place. And so that's a beginning of our organic vegetables project. And we, from very beginning, we try to put the farmer's name on every vegetable. And even till now, all bag of vegetable has the name of the farmers or the farm, and also the what kinds of classification of the organic, or it's what kind of level. We do have our own classification system. And so this is a mutual trust. And we also, at the day one, because if you compare, please visit Taiwan's wet market or the traditional market, if you got time, and see how the abundance of variety of vegetable. We enjoy leafy greens so much. That means we have a very long hot summer, and there's no way of getting rid of all these insects or fungus. So pesticide use are so common that there's a way we try to see besides growing vegetable without chemicals. But how about fertilizer? People are so, the farmer are so used to using the nitrogen fertilizer 3 or 7 times a year when you're growing very short-term vegetable. So we, this is one of the things we try to work with farmer, please using less nitrogen fertilizers. So we check on the nitrates level for several years or even like a decades before the farmers really get into that. They now see the benefit of using less nitrogen fertilizer. I think there's a long way for any kinds of conventional grower trying to convert it into an alternative way. So we share some of the risk with the farmers as well. So I would like to share that less is more is something we take it as a principle of taking out herbicides, food additives. We only allow around 80 items of food additives compared to what the government allowed, probably like around 800 different items. And also there are some food mileage. We try to source most of the thing locally, unless it's a fair trade items or there are some major grain that it's difficult to grow in Taiwan, for example, like the wheat. So there's a long time partnership where most of the farmers that we work with have shared like 10, 20 some years of relationship. I would especially like to mention about we have an emergency aid for farmers. Sometimes we do fundraising for that extremely typhoon like this. All the banana tree was like wiped out. Like this year, a lot of the farm will suffer if the banana farm would be like all wind was getting from this direction, say well. So sometimes we, not very often, but we do have a fund to react to the crisis like this. And we have a prepaid system, so the farmers can sort of like borrow money. For this year, we do have to allow that kind of allowance more since there's too many typhoons hitting Taiwan. And for example, how about to upgrade our animal welfare on the laying egg hens and to increase their animal welfare. So it's a long process. It's not something you say or done. So for example, in the year 2014, we phased our battery cage, the chicken farm, and starting with bun raise. And 2016, we took the beta carotene, sorry, I said B carotene, but beta carotene as a colorant, or we'll say it's because there are a lot of there are artificially synthetic beta carotene rather than naturally derived, and it's difficult to check on that. And later on, we started to introduce non-GMO feed and also with free range. Okay, I think I'm running out of time. And so there's a lot of work, but I think I like to stress on that we have a lot of affiliation with the Korean One Happy Co-op and the Japanese Seikatsu Club. We do have a sisterhood alliance for more than 20 years and with an annual exchange, so we can keep our stance on our food policy and keep going. We learn a lot from each other, and so we all started with a group delivery and then into individually, and then later on we all some starting with our own store. And we renew our own sisterhood alliance in the year 2016 because we all have changed our name or we have some organizational change. Okay, and we have an energy co-op after Japan has the big earthquake in 2011. And afterwards, we thought about, we want to eradicate the nuclear power plant if it's possible. So creating a nuke-free society is something that we share in common, although it's quite difficult. And here, we import 90% of our energy in terms of oil, gas, and even the nuclear fuel. And we have the largest per capita carbon emission in Taiwan, in Asia. And our electricity price is the lowest among Asia. I mean, we are 1/3 of Japan's the electricity bill, and Philippines. We're even cheaper than the Philippines. 6.3 is the last year our nuclear power generation, but 9.3 is the renewable energy. So this, we have been 3 years now, the renewable energy exceeding the nuclear power plant. By March next year, our third nuclear power plant, the reactor number 2, will be going into shutdown and then begin a process of decommission. But the government seems to have a big interest in the SMR, small and medium reactor. I think the business world trying to sell that idea to all government, isn't it? Okay, so we want to sort of invest as a group investor on renewable energy. This is how we started as an energy co-op. But in European country, there are probably more than 5,000 energy co-op in all different countries. So because check it out, your own, if anybody's from Europe, check it out. We call it like from consumer to producer or to co-producer. So this is the word for prosumer is from producer and consumer. This is a word that was invented to see how civilian could participate in the energy transition. This is how our stance. And how many time do I still have? 2 minutes. Okay. If I can end it here, we have 2 or 3 people from Nepal. We were in Nepal the second day. Okay, that was the first day we in Nepal. We didn't know the earthquake would come, so we were in the farmers market in the morning. But at around noontime, the earthquake hit, and we were sheltered by friends and by. But on the third day, we moved to Hasela. Anybody from Hasela Farm, please raise your hand. And yeah, stood up, please. If not for Claire, please raise up. Please raise Claire. Lin Nianci, she has a women's cloth napkin entrepreneur in sharing the space in the Hasela Farm. So she brought us there. So in there, we can really experience that with those solar panels, they share with the village. After all the power shut down, the whole country, their solar power can provide the charging for their cell phone, so they can say peace or health or started to do some business. Okay, then later on our old story in how we visit our inspiration by our bakery. They install their own, and it was after the typhoon. It was not risk, and so this is the beginning 8 years ago. Our own energy co-op, and so we work with different groups. There's a Christian group that runs the children's home. We have our tofu plants. We on the top. We have with an electricity company, and also a co-housing apartment. And then later on with the Hualien, I have to mention about Hualien is how to build with solidarity with different groups. Hualien, we just had that on two of the building of the Mennonites, a Christian hospital, and it wasn't after the earthquake and all the typhoon we survived. There's no damage at all. So it's a good investment with a good design, a right type of design that we can sustain. And that's how we said the caring. I think let's go to the very last end because we are running out of time. Currently we have 7 energy corp in Taiwan. One is in the remote island. I don't have time for all these, but I think I should leave the time for the second presenter. And ResCoop, please check it out. ResCoop is a federation for renewable energy co-op in European. They represent more than, I think around 1,500 energy co-op all around Europe area and European countries. I borrow this from Japan's Secret Club because you have an economist called Takahashi. They have advocates for food, energy, and care. Care is for the community. Care is for human scale. We need to work on all of these to sustain the human community in this planet. So let's start it to, because permaculture always talked about beyond sustainability. And if we get into a safe food, we have to look into beyond organic. So this is my message today, and thank you all.
Thank you so much, Shu-de, for that inspirational story, going from just wanting clean food to 90,000 members. So, big ideas can start with such a small seed, right? I'd like to next introduce Babu C.K. Ganguly from Timbaktu Collective, which is, he's from Southern India, and it's, just learning about your projects over the last few days has been very inspiring. So please welcome Babu.
Should I go up top or should I stay? Go up. Okay. All right. Well, before I start, I must tell you that I started working in the villages in India about 45 years ago, and I just finished university. And in the first 12 years of my life, I was doing work as an activist, as a political activist, as a rights-based work, and a lot of agitation for land rights and wages and housing rights and things like that, till I got kind of disillusioned, and I came across Fukuoka, Masanobu Fukuoka. And surprisingly, through Fukuoka, I came across Schumacher. And from Schumacher, I came across Gandhi. So it's been a wild journey. And then I met Bill Mollison and Robin Francis, who's my teacher many years ago. So all our work is really an inspiration of permaculture. But I can't call myself a Permi. Neither can I call myself a Gandhian. I'm just an ordinary human being. So, yeah. So first, where we are located, some of you may know India. We are in the south, and this area used to be pretty rich area at one time. It was a, known for its lakes, forests, precious stones, etc. But it today is one of the most impoverished districts in the country, the second most drought-prone. So I was listening to the earlier conversation before lunch, and we were talking about war and disasters. This is a permanent disaster zone. I mean, every year, you see, that is a general look of the area. We have almost no vegetation in that area. It's turned desolate and quite dry and arid. How to take this forward? Okay. So before I go ahead, this is the story of Timbaktu, where I live, So in 1990, a few of us bought this piece of land, which was more or less like the rest of the district. It was completely barren. I mean, there was nothing growing there that was taller than me. And you can see even the hills were dry and quite barren. It's not a great photograph, so you can't see it. But basically, we bought this 32 acres of land to try and heal it, to regenerate it, and to create an agroforest habitat. And we gave it the name Timbaktu. Why? We can have a talk about it later. And in 1995, we had settled in there. We had started a small school, and you can see the vegetation was beginning to come back. And why would so by 2010, the floral species had gone from 21 in 1991 to over 400 species. This is Mother Nature at work. We really didn't do anything much. We just protected her. We just allowed her to do what she does best. She knows how to regenerate herself if we give her the space and the protection. So that's what she did. And you're welcome to come and visit us anytime. Now, from this Timbaktu we formed an organization called the Timbaktu Collective. And in 1990, we registered it. In 1991, we began the work of eco-restoration in Timbaktu. And then in 1992, we began working in about 10 villages around Timbaktu. And today we work in 347 villages, covering about 40,000 marginalized families. And we have promoted 9 cooperatives. The speaker before me was talking about co-ops. So we have basically been trying to revive the cooperative movement in India. And so that's what we've been doing. I don't have too much time to be able to give you the description of all the different cooperatives. Okay. So the vision that we have is that rural communities live in dignity and peace while nurturing and celebrating life. This is our vision, and that's what we've been working over for the last 35 years. And you know, in permaculture, we talk about the 3 basic ethics of earth care, people care, and fair share. For us, the 3 things that we took up, 3 principles that we took up was regenerating ecologies, restoring dignity, and reviving the rural economy. So all our work is around this. So it's, I mean, yeah. Thank you. So we work with women. Our real work, our basic work is with women. So there are about 33,000 women with whom we work. With children, about 5,000 children, with children and youth, with people with disabilities, about 1,600 children, people with disabilities, with agricultural laborers. So we work with animal husbandry with them, and with farmers. And we have about 2,500 organic farmers with whom we work, with about 11,500 acres of land that is 100% organic. And, oh, sorry. Yeah. So along with that, we have promoted 15 rural enterprises, and we have a eco-restoration work that we've done on 3,500 acres of land, along with 11 communities, local communities. I unfortunately have not put all the photographs in this because I was told by the organizers that I would have only 10 minutes time. So if you're coming to the convergence, I'll show you all the photographs. Okay. So this is the data regarding the women. We have 33,000 women across 333 villages, and their net worth is $6.76 million, US dollars. This is their own money. And with this money, we have been trying to create a circular economy in that area, because these women, they own this money. It is their own savings, which they then give it out as loans to themselves. And they are the women who actually originally got us to start organic farming. And then it became a cooperative on its own. So these are 4 cooperatives that have been brought together, and today they are a powerful lot of people. And we work, these are the 2 important things that I'm talking about right now. This is another cooperative, is the Farmers Cooperative, and this has about 2,000 odd members. I've already told you, and it's about $500,000 US dollars is their capital reserve. And both these are the ones that are giving farmers a better money, and they're all organic, and they all have permaculture designs. We have here Madhu, who has been one of our trainers there. We ran a school for young people, a 2-year course in which Madhu taught. Madhu, where are you? You are somewhere. There's. Yeah, so that's basically the story. If you have, this is the data. Basically, it's about 680 million rupees, which would be about 8 million US dollars, which is circulating in that area. It doesn't go out. And that's the important part for us in the terms of trying to create right kind of livelihood, which has safe ecological background. We grow, we make soap, we make cloths, we make good food, and we live a good life. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. And we do. Okay. Yeah. We do a lot of dancing. So this is called Kolatam. So we do Chakka Bhajana, we do Kolatam, and these are traditional dances of the area, community dances. And we sing a lot, we dance a lot, we celebrate life. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bablu. Wow, inspiring. Yeah, starting from nothing and creating an $8 million economy that's kept in the community. I think now we're going to open the session up to questions and answers. Is there any questions out there?
Great, thank you. I was wondering the $8 million, how do you keep that within the community? How does it stay in the community?
Because I didn't hear. Sorry.
I was wondering about the $8 million. How is that staying in the community? How?
Well, the first thing is that what the women are doing is like an alternative banking system. So this money does not go out to others. Whatever we do, we realized one thing, that over time, our villages have become kind of feeding the cities, you know. What is it called? There is a word for it, I forget, sorry. So we just supply raw material. We have stopped producing things. When 45 years ago, when I went to the villages, there were at least 10 different manufactories in the village. Today, there's nothing. Today, there's only crops, or they are building roads and hospitals for the government. They're not producing it. We are not producing anything. So we went into this whole business of production. And therefore, you know, you saw 15 different producer groups have been formed. And we have, this is not rocket science for them. They know it. They know how to produce. It's just that they don't know how to market it. They don't know, they're producers. So we've been working with them in trying to market the whole thing, create brand. So we have Timbaktu Organic, Timbaktu Weaves, Timbaktu Pickles, Timbaktu, you know, that kind of stuff. And what we try to talk about is how can we keep it ecologically sound? How can we see that the money comes back? So you asked this question, let me give you a simple example. We were not producing soap. So we had a general body of the women at one point, and I asked them, do you use soap? They said, yes, we do use soap. So where do you buy the soap? Oh, we buy this Lux Supreme or something, you know, all this kind of stuff. I said, how much does it cost? Well, maybe about 25 rupees to 50 rupees, depending on the quality. So how many soap do you use a month? About 4 or 5. I said, okay, let's take 4 soaps a month for a family at 25 rupees, which is, I'm sorry, 25, just understand. At 25 rupees, which is 100 rupees, 100 rupees a month, you're spending on just soap, which can be produced. Which means that if I am working with 20,000 families, if we are working with 20,000 families and 20,000 families are spending 20,000 into 100 on soap. It's not toothbrush, not toothpaste, not oils, not anything. It's just on soap, bathing soap. And that also is not real soap. You know, they don't write soap anymore. Because real soap has to be made with vegetable oils. Otherwise, it's not really soap. And so we said, we are sending out more than 300,000 rupees a month to the soap companies, and we can easily make soap. So let's start making soap. And that's how we started making soap. So we made soap, then we are making cloth, we are making everything that we produce. There's 920 tons of food that the farmers produced and processed and then sold. And it all remains, the money comes back into the economy. That's what I don't know if it answers it.
This question, I think there was someone over here.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Spencer. I'm from Thailand. It's always great to hear that you have a closed economy, you know, all the trading, all the buying was within communities. But when modern society come into play, younger people want iPhone, iPad, internet access in here, you need to have more money to buy these gadgets. And how do you address these kind of issues when within the community that they are looking for more money and the children are going outside, spending the money outside? Thank you.
It's a problem with the urbanization. We sort of it makes us more and more dependent, or it's an intoxicating lifestyle that anything cost, and all in terms of money, and it's difficult to get rid of it, especially Chinese society. I mean here, I mean not China, but Chinese descendant, or even the Japan or Korea, we probably all share this mainstreaming of economy that was driven all by dollar sign or dollar cents. Everything are changed or expressed in a way of monetary. And so I have no answer for that, but I would call on anybody who would like to share or explain on that, because I don't have my own answer. I try to consume less, but I find the younger generation, when they are on social media and they are caught on with the kind of a cycle, or was kind of intoxicated. It was driven by fashion, a quick one replaced by newer one. So it's a constant cycle we try to break off. I think permaculture is a way. We are trying to sort of react to the calling that we have to stand with the soil, because we are all putting on socks and shoes too much of the time. I don't know whether that I started with my talk, but please, somebody would like to continue and express, I will call out for your help here.
You didn't get your answer. Well, at least people like us, we are not, it's impossible to solve this whole global crisis. We can only do what we can in our area. So our whole attempt is to try and make agriculture and agriculture-related livelihoods more exciting. So one of the things we found was you can't blame the young people, because our education system is so crappy that they get alienated, especially in the rural areas, from their own parents and their own work that their parents have been doing over 1,000 years. And they've gotten so alienated that it's not that they're just, their aspirations have changed. They don't know what agriculture is. They don't know what it is to touch cow dung. You know, in India, cow dung is used a lot in agriculture. And cow dung, if the cow is healthy, the dung has a beautiful smell. And they call that dirty. So like in the cities, the children in the villages have been alienated from nature, alienated from the work that their parents and their uncles and aunts have been doing, to such an extent that they want to run away. But they know nothing about the urban either. Their education, so I'm actually very sorry for them. I don't blame them. The blame really is on our educational system. I don't know, must be in Taiwan, it's different, but in India, it's really the pigs. I can assure you that.
Yeah, I think also going back to making permaculture, making rural livelihoods or rural living cool again, or seeing the qualities in that. I've been working over the years with Nicola Shirley Phillips. She's here from Jamaica, and so one of our main programs with that is doing permaculture with youth, right? Because there's so many people. They have access to really good land and family land, but when you're young, you want to go to Kingston, you want to go to where there's some excitement or something to do and dance halls and things. And then they go to town and then they realize, wow, there's not very many jobs. They end up washing dishes, or then you end up selling drugs, and you get in. When you have this land, you have your family in the mountains, right? This beautiful, productive land. So like, how can we make livelihoods in the rural areas and make it cool again, right? And so, or make it interesting again, right? And so I think that's maybe one benefit to the internet and to the iPads and things, is that you can be still keep connected even if you aren't in the city, right? So it takes a lot of resources to make those gadgets, and it takes money, and then that money maybe goes out of the community. But hopefully the positive aspect is we can use these tools of phones and iPads and things to feel more connected to each other, find people that we're more aligned with, create these cooperatives and networks, and so I think, like you said, we can't solve everything, but hopefully we can use the tools that we have to get us headed in a more regenerative direction, right?
We have the fourth generation as members, and they're drawing more and more into the cooperatives because they understand the value of the cooperation and the relationship that they have with each other culturally, ethnically, etc.
I think that for me, that's so important about what you're doing, both of you, creating these livelihoods in rural areas and keeping that money in the local economy. And so same thing, I'm from New Mexico, and so the same problem is, the brain drain. There's so many young people going, they go to get a degree, but then they can't really, if they get an engineering degree, what they're going to go back to the family farm, right? So it ends up being the kids that stay in the community typically have more problems, or maybe drug addiction problems or things like that. And so these communities, agricultural communities, are dying out, right? And so how can we create these livelihoods so motivated young people can stay in the rural areas and actually create abundance, right? Christopher.
So one of the problems that you're talking about is a very common problem throughout the developing world. My wife and I work primarily in Belize, but we also have taught in Guatemala and in Honduras, and we see the same problems that you're discussing, that there's a combination of rapidly expanding youth population, low levels of rural employment, rural to urban migration, which of course feeds the whole cycle that you talked about, desperation, poverty, crimes, bad decisions, imprisonment. And then we talk about, on the other hand, how do we make rural life more attractive? And my wife and I, we're focused primarily on multi-strata agroforestry systems. And so with canopy species, timber, food, tree legumes, and underneath that, sub-canopy species, particularly ones that have high value. That's the area that my wife and I are focused on. How do you create something that provides multiple yields, where a multi-strata agroforestry system can provide food, fiber, marketable crops, medicinal crops, while replicating ecosystem services of soil moisture retention, habitat creation, and of course, the big one everybody talks about all the time, carbon sequestration. Multi-strata agroforestry systems do that. But it is the anchor crops, what we call anchor crops, that make it possible. High-value sub-canopy species, things like vanilla. Vanilla selling for $500 US a kilogram. It's more than the marijuana my neighbors used to produce and have to look over their shoulder and worry about the DEA or the police coming. Cardamom, high value. Turmeric, high value. Ginger, high value. Coffee, not so high value, but some value. Cacao, high value. Both cacao and vanilla, of course, are endemic to Belize, where we live. And it's one of the things that we talk about. I was very encouraged hearing some of the cooperative models that are here, because it's not enough. If one farmer is producing, let's say I have a few kilos of vanilla, and plus I have, 1,000 pounds of turmeric. Where am I going to find the market? Well, my wife and I can sell a little bit in Belize City, or we can sell it to the hotels or whatnot. But what is this essential thing that I've seen repeated over and over here is centralized purchasing for smallholders, cooperatives, and farmers associations. So in Belize, we have a checkered history. I managed the Toledo Cacao Growers Association in Punta Gorda, which served 30-something community. We started out with 225 members. 7 years later, when I left, we had over 750 members. It's a very good model. It's first fair trade and organic certified chocolate cooperative in the world, or cacao cooperative. And this is the model that is infinitely replicable. Infinitely replicable. It can be done anywhere there are multiple smallholders. So to answer that, the question that you touched on is, how do we make young people not abandon the rural areas to go work in tourism, or go join the police, or go join the army with the problem we have, or go get involved with crime? You have to make rural livelihoods financially rewarding, because everybody wants an iPhone or tablet or something. Make it financially rewarding, so these alternative possibilities are less attractive than staying at home. And I think one of the ways we do that is we find high value crops in the context of a multi-strata agroforestry system that creates transgenerational wealth. So that's something that your grandfather, we have young people who are moving into their grandfather's cacao farms. And that is one way. When you guys were talking about that before, I thought that was actually one set of solutions that solves a multitude of problems. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, Maya Mountain Research Farm in Belize. It's a beautiful place. Go visit. Next question.
我在想说，我们好像都跟农业结合在一起，还有跟乡村。那因为大部分的人会离开，乡村或离开农业，都是因为都市比较好发展。那有没有可能有一种可能性，就是说，在都市里，好像我们只能跟我们有关系的是我们教育而已。那我想说，这种绿色的东西，在都市人看到的就是公园。 有没有可能我们从公园去设计一个鸿门式的公园，让它同时有公园的特性，也有生产力？当然我知道这可能要有一些法规可以打破，不然说真的，在都市里，就像现在每个人都往都市发展，那都市就是一个大家都知道是一个毒瘤嘛，然后就很多问题产生。那我们如何就都市来想办法去设计一个 因为都市有了这个公园，那公园有没有可能创造一个图门绿地或图门的什么东西就地在都市去发展？有没有可能去这样去设计
So the question. No, okay. So the question was, permaculture were relatively seen in a rural area, and I was wondering if something could happen in the urban area as well. So we are seeing a lot of more educational focused permacultural practices in the city, but I was thinking maybe green spaces like parks could have some potential. For example, seeing park being not only for recreational purposes, but also for productive purposes. And so so the question is for the 哪位讲者？哪一位讲者？for all everyone on stage. So how can we see this problem as a solution and bringing city and transform city as a permacultural hub, and what are the practices that's suitable for urban areas?
If taken just from Taiwan's perspective, maybe we need to broaden it on all these things that already happen in transition town, like an edible landscape, reclaiming the open space in the city. But it took a lot of the efforts to be creative to reclaim that public space. I think leave it to a lot of the, I mean, everybody has your own thinking. I mean, don't have a real one, because for Taiwan, for example, if you want to have a park to claim that can we had a chance of making it a converting into a permaculture space, it takes a lot of effort from the civic group, and it's not possible. It's not impossible. I mean, thank you for your for the that kind of recommendation or an idea. I think all of us can take it away from today on. If a small action can be possible, any of us start to reclaim. We need to reclaim the public land for public purpose, not just putting more. In Taiwan, for example, the park are already being procurement, government procurement into too much man-made equipment, man-made pavement. So if we want to take it out as make it a space that we have a growing, we have a design, and even not just by government procurement, that kind of engineer perspective. There are chances, maybe Tang Min can talk about it. Can I? Yeah, please. You're on my.
Taiwan does have many ways. You just know how to work the system. In cities themselves, there's different government agencies that are involved in putting out the green space. And mostly you have to know your local leaders, and then you have to work with community educators. So between the two, the government doesn't want anybody to just take over spaces now, because then sometimes you'll have conflicts. And so it's more about, it's not about how, if you can use it, it's how you can use it. And there are a lot of very nice ways. Technically in the parks regulations, you can't grow vegetables, you can't have any economic crops, et cetera. But there are many ways around that. You can call things by horticultural names instead, even though they're edible, for example. So it's all about, they want you to be there, but they also have to abide by the rules themselves. So if we can all make sure, that everybody's, not going to get in trouble, then have real projects that have plans, that have ownership, that have community buy-in, you're going to get a sign on easily, because that's just one less thing for the local government to worry about, honestly, and they're very happy. And of course, the local residents are very happy because they have finally a space that's local that they can actually feel, connected to. And then those spaces become educational spaces for all kinds of things. So if anybody wants to know more about this one day, I will be at the convergence, so we can talk about it, but I wasn't going to present on this particular subject. Thanks. So.
唐敏，谢谢 ，Thank you， 唐敏。
I wish Robin was here. And we used to have these green gorillas, and she sings about them, used to at least. What we did was we have planted fruit trees because Bill said, why don't we plant fruit trees on the roads? So we started planting fruit trees on the road, and they have just started fruiting now. So we have to see how the community, we started with tamarind many years ago. We did large groves of tamarind. We've done roadside planting of tamarind because tamarind is a fruit that is used by the communities in the South quite a lot. But we've started mangoes, guavas, and things like that. And it's just about starting to fruit. So we'll have to see what happens, how the community looks after them, because it's nobody's property. And then, but by the way, there are many people around the world who are doing work in urban permaculture. So, great work has been. Way back in 92, I saw a house, a building in Sydney that was designed by Bill, which had food growing everywhere. And the whole building was a food garden. So there are those kind of things that are also happening all over.
Thank you for bringing that up, because in Taiwan, we used to have roadside orchard. We grow mangoes, Logan, that was the name of the fruit. But for expanding the pathway from 2-lane to 4-lane, all those fully grown fruit trees will be cutting down. And afterward, they were planting, I don't know what kind of tree from that. A lot of them there are foreign bred, but not anymore local varieties. So that was, I don't know how many of you are like in my age, you will still recall those days. We had big mango tree alongside of the road, the main roads, south and north-south bound in a lot of the central and southern Taiwan. But I think and the government usually took away our memory of the old days, how we used to do things, and replace it with, I don't know what kind of government procurement procedure, but that's a nice way of expression, and I thank you for that, recalling that. Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly add too that not everyone maybe has the physical ability or the time to grow their food, right? And so that's an opportunity for others to help them, right? So that's another livelihood. Because I encourage, like in my PDCs, I'm always looking for different places like interject and encourage the attendees to think about how they can create their own livelihood, right? By educating, by maybe starting a permaculture company, starting a composting company, starting, there's so many edible landscape company, installing gray water systems. There's so many different services that are needed in an urban environment, right? Or even a good friend of mine in San Francisco, he started a business growing the veggies on the roof of apartments. And those veggies feed the people in the apartment, right? And so this is on new buildings. So when you buy a condo, the whole first year, every week you get a box of veggies that are grown on the roof and are watered by rainwater storage tanks that are caught from the roof, right? So integrating those types of systems in urban environments as well. We've been waiting a long time, so let's squeeze in one more question if we have any.
Thank you. Yeah, you guys both work with communities, and you talked a little bit about dancing, that you do a lot of dancing. And I'm curious, both of you or either one or what have any advice about how you can keep a community having fun and maybe how you throw a good party or a ceremony and open the discussion like this.
First, you must. So it's we as the organization, all of us and all the cooperatives, we have built into our daily routine this kind of dancing and singing. Every meeting starts and ends with a song, and we have a whole team now that is going around the villages organizing classes. It takes 3 months to learn this. So we have 52 teachers who we have. Well, some of them are my students from long back, who have now become teachers, and they are being employed to train young people, because once you've learned it, you don't forget. And the whole village comes together when they're practicing, and then at the end of 3 months, the whole village celebrates these 20, 25, 30, depending on what group is. We do that on a regular basis. So how to celebrate? I mean, everybody knows how to celebrate. It's just that you must be ready to celebrate. So when you go, I mean, I should be ready to celebrate. So when I celebrate, then people around me celebrate. And when people around me celebrate, people around them celebrate. So it's just that we shouldn't sink into this despair hole that is being created world over. We have to create our own energy. We have to move it. And this is where permaculture is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, there is so much energy that is there. So for us, we have to create, and we have to create those islands of energies, which will then at some point in time, just explode. But that's what we have to do. I'm fed up of speaking about the pain and horror and blah 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 blah. I want to talk about what is great, what is good, what everybody I see in the world today are people who have phenomenal capacity to love, to enjoy, to celebrate. And that's what we should be doing. Find that out, pick that up. Let's go and celebrate. Yeah. Life, we celebrate it. That's what.
一刷根，39